Welcome back to another episode of Rethink Real Estate. Line that I'll use for this one, just as an intro so we can cut straight to the chase, is your relationship bigger than the commitment that you're going to ask of a client? Because if it isn't, then I don't believe that that seller is going to say yes. So again, is your relationship bigger than the commitment that you're going to ask from a client? Because if it isn't, I think it's going to be a no. Hope this helps. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. A topic that I find a little bit difficult to talk about today on Rethink Real Estate, and that's why I'm going to use my notes on this so that I make sure I get the points in, is that I've gotten some feedback recently from a meeting that I had with an agent. And sometimes it's really difficult for me to take on feedback. I really do struggle with it. A few of you are probably chuckling on there that know me well. But the reason I struggle with it is because oftentimes I think that I'm better than the person that is giving me the feedback. And I think that's really, again, I've said this before on Rethink Real Estate, we can psychoanalyze that later, and everybody's probably got their own theory of me. And if they don't like it, then they probably already stopped listening. But I think that the part about this is that we had a meeting with an agent to talk to them about the non-distressed auction process. And again, in essence, is that you've got to build a relationship, and you've got to do it intentionally in order for that person, in order to feel heard. And I want to go back to that. Is that the one thing that kept coming up as something that, you know, the conversation got relatively heated about their listing and what would happen to their listing if they didn't take an alternative action. And, you know, it kind of got to the point where we were pointing out, you know, the bad things that they were doing for their sellers and that they really didn't care. When that wasn't the case, it was probably just something where they didn't know what to do next, and they were trying to vet our process really, really deeply, and we took it more personally than what we should. So there's a part of this process where, you know, sitting back and listening to that feedback really gave me a really good understanding and a framework around how to build a relationship at the beginning of a call or the beginning of that conversation where you don't have a relationship with anybody at all. I think being intentional with giving somebody an opportunity to really talk about where they are at is a really missed opportunity. For example, I saw this thing after looking at it, is that, you know, within any sales relationship or any relationship that you're having with somebody, say it's a prospect for the future, a future seller, future buyer, you know, it might be an agent that you're looking to do an auction with, whoever it is, okay, is that at the end of the day, if you ask for a commitment and that commitment is bigger than the relationship you've built, it will usually mean a no. So let me give you that again, is that if you ask for a commitment out of that person, out of that prospect, out of that whoever it is, that client, okay, and that commitment is bigger than the relationship that you've built or the foundation of a relationship that you've built, then it'll always probably result in some friction and a no. And I want to dive into that a little bit more by giving you an understanding of what happened on this call that is just so obvious to me, is that I jumped straight into the presentation. Now, how we have set this up is that we have one of our new prospecting guys, you know, out there reaching out to an agent. They've had a listing on the marketplace for a period of time. We think they're an ideal fit. They say, yeah, I'd love to hear more about it. So then they set the meeting up with me. And again, I've got back-to-back meetings a lot of the day, and I didn't look at the context of it. I didn't look at how many days on market it is or anything along those lines. So I went in pretty hot to that meeting. Now, the one thing that I need to make sure of is that in that moment, I need to pause, because it's too easy for me to just jump into the sales pitch to try and get it done and move on to the next one, because this is about volume. I think that we need to take the time to be intentional about that conversation, intentional about that relationship. And I didn't ask one of the key questions: why do you think the home hasn't sold yet? Because usually there's pretty big backstory. It's usually the property's something wrong with it. Usually, I've got a good activity, just no one's committing. The sellers, you know, are a little bit out to lunch on their value. Oh no, it's a good property. I just wanted to hear more about your auction process, whatever it may be. It really gives me an understanding and a tonality to that conversation. But in essence, is that the feedback that I got is that when I just jumped into the pitch, it was later when we went through this, as it got a little heated, and come back and said, hey, look, apologies that escalated to that event, okay, or to that level. I'd love to go back and reflect on why it got there. And she's like, I just wasn't heard. And I thought that was really interesting. And that comes back down to that being intentional element. And I think that, When it comes down to us asking questions of our clients and really going in and being a good listener, I think that's not even enough. Now, you might say to me, oh, well, that person really just wanted me to go through the pitch and give them the elevator pitch or whatever it may be. And if you're not lacing that pitch with questions and a deeper interaction with that person, I think that then you've got to realize that maybe that's not the time in order to try them sell them on something or give them the understanding of it. Maybe it's time just to try and just make that a touch point, one of many that you're probably going to have to go through in order to get to the end outcome. Remember, if that commitment that you ask from them is that, hey, may I do a presentation with your sellers to pitch them on this process? If that commitment is bigger than the relationship that you've built with them, and they don't feel an essence of trust or an essence of rapport in that conversation or in that moment, then I don't think that they're going to say yes. It's the same when you're in a listing presentation, or it's the same in what have you done in the follow-up to that listing presentation? Have you given them a pre-listing kit? Have you gone and knocked on their door and let them know of this? Have you come and confirmed the conversation? Have you done this, that, and the other before you've actually gotten to the appointment in order to then have some format of a relationship or something where they know that you are a professional individual, and you've sized that up by asking a great deal of questions in the beginning or pre-qualifying them so that then you know that they've been heard, because being intentional with the relationship you're building with them is listening to what they're saying so that therefore you can angle it or associate or draw parallels in that conversation itself. So the point of this conversation today and the point of what I'm going through with you today is that it's really easy to go and jump in to your sales pitch so quickly. Okay, it's really easy to just jump in and think that, hey, look, this is the only time that I'm ever going to get to speak to this person. I need to go in and I need to pitch them on this process. No, I don't have time to do the rapport building or hear them out about this or that and the other. I need to get to the point of this so that therefore, they know that I've got something that's really great and that they need to use it. And I understand and I love that passion for you. And I love that passion for myself. Like I'm genuinely on that call because I know that I can offer them something that they probably couldn't get elsewhere and that genuinely is there to help them. And it's forcing myself upon them that is honestly not the part where I'm building an intentional relationship with them to ask for a big commitment, where my relationship outweighs the commitment that I'm asking. And most of the times that I'm asking these people for is a pretty big commitment for them to put themselves out there by recommending, if not just saying that there's a process that we want you to hear out rather than a price reduction or something along those lines. So think about that. When you're asking a seller to sell their biggest asset, one of the things that they probably only do every now and then is that, they're only probably going to do 4, 5, 6 times maximum maybe in their lifetime, if you're lucky, is that asking for that commitment. If you think about the relationship that goes into that, even if you're meeting cold prospects or somebody that's expired on the marketplace or anything along those lines where you don't have that level of credibility and relationship, it's probably important to take a fair few steps before you walk in the door in order to have that intentional relationship where at the end of that, you can ask for that commitment, which is bigger than the relationship that you have. It's almost it's pompous in a way to think that you could walk in without building a relationship and then go to there. I think that is one of the big elements of this that I certainly had as a takeaway. Again, really difficult to take feedback. There's no question about that. So either way, hope that helps. Hopefully that's something that we can all reflect on, or hopefully it's just made you chuckle because, I had a heated conversation with an agent that told me to go away. But anyway, thanks for joining us on Rethink Real Estate. So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.